The Chiefs broke the Bills on the way to their 6th straight conference championship game. We're going to break it down for you on this week's Lab.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the KC Laboratory, brought to you by Emprise Bank. My name is Craig Stout. Joining me, as always, is my good pal, Matty Lane. Matt, buddy, how we doing? How we feeling 24 hours after the Chiefs come away with another massive playoff victory?
Let me tell you, for a moment there, last week, I thought there was a chance that we, as KCS and as a company, were not going to witness the Kansas City Chiefs playing in the AFC Championship game. But lo and behold, I still have no idea what that feels like, Craig. And that is just so very sweet. As you can tell, we're down a man. Kent is still daydreaming. I think he fell asleep, daydreaming about the offensive performance yet again against the Bills. So maybe later in the week, he'll catch back up. He'll be able to recenter himself and give us another Rant Swanson moment. But for the time, he's just sound asleep, dreaming of the offense. So it's just Craig and I today.
Yeah, he got a taste of what Patrick Mahomes has done over the past 5 years and just completely noped out of this one. He said, listen, guys, I need a little time to myself. I've been abstaining from this for so long that when it happened, he just, had to take a moment to collect himself. Can't really blame him. So, but we're going to break this down. We're going to talk about Kansas City Chiefs becoming a villain for the Buffalo Bills here. I don't know if it's even villainous. Certainly the Kansas City Chiefs players waving on the sidelines as the Buffalo Bills fans were trying to pelt them with snowballs.
Chris Jones villained pretty good.
He did villain pretty. Yeah, that was a pretty good one. But Drew Tranquill actually caught one, had it in his hand, and it disintegrated. And that man, you saw a pitcher, the shoulder cocked. He was ready to throw it right back at a fan there. I don't know how well that would have gone over, but do you think here, we're going to lead with this and we'll get into the Chiefs, we'll get into how things work. Do you think that this is now a situation where, much like the Colts were for the Chiefs for a long time, is this just one of those, hey, this sucks. I hate this team. I hate seeing this team in the playoff. I hate all the players on this team. I hate Patrick Mahomes. Do you think that Buffalo feels that way right now? Or do you think that they've just been beaten down so much as a franchise over their history, not just recently, that they're just like, man, this kind of sucks to be a part of this franchise, be a fan of it right now?
Man, that's tough, right? So I think the big difference is the Bills do have Josh Allen. So no matter what, they're always going to have a little bit of hope, right? The Chiefs going to play Peyton Manning, there's not as much hope there as you would have anticipated. I know that extended to Andrew Luck, but still same thing. The Chiefs weren't trotting out a Josh Allen to go out there and lose those games. So there is a little difference there, but no. I think this one finally flips the script. I think you now go from Bills fans and Bills players probably being like, we got to get one of these playoff games. We've beat them in the regular season on the road. We've beat them in the regular season multiple times in a row. We've proven we can do it. Bills fans are excited. They thought this was the time. I'm sure players thought this was the time. And it just simply wasn't. At this point, there is no way that team wants to see the Chiefs anymore in the playoffs. I'm sorry. There's no way that team can want to see this Chiefs team. It doesn't matter if they are playing in Kansas City, Buffalo, Germany, North Pole, in Santa's workshop. It doesn't matter where they are playing here. The Bills can't want to see this Chiefs team anymore. And I can't blame them, right? It doesn't matter what they do at this point. Low scoring games, high scoring games, overtime, 13 seconds, wide right on a kick. It doesn't matter what the situation is. They have just run into a wall against this Chiefs team. And it does create the Chiefs as this perfect villain for a city. Honestly, if you look around the entire country, a lot of teams fans don't want the Chiefs to win. They definitely are a villain role now. This further proves it, because I think neutral fans all wanted the Bills to win. Neutral fans of team fans that weren't people that weren't a fan of any of the teams that were remaining in the playoffs probably were all pulling for the Bills. Everybody wants the Bills to win. And then the Chiefs went out and beat them again. That's tough. That's a tough pill.
That is a tough pill to swallow. And you mentioned, playing at the North Pole. To be fair, somebody would have moved it. Clearly too much snow to be playing a football game. You can't be doing that. That's just one of those. As I look around, certainly nobody wants the Chiefs to win anymore. Chiefs fans do, but there are very few fans of other teams, of other organizations that are looking at the Chiefs right now. It's like, yeah, I don't mind if they win again. They're already in the territory of, no, we've seen enough of them. We are tired of this. We are tired of watching them have the sort of success that they have. And that just kind of leads us right into this. Matty, the Chiefs have won 5 straight playoff games. We back to last year, 5 straight. That's the second time in the Patrick Mahomes era that they have won 5 straight playoff games. The other one, obviously, and the first Super Bowl that they won. They had a bye week, made it back to the Super Bowl. If the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Baltimore Ravens, they will have now 6 straight playoff wins. Hey, win. He's calling a shot. The people in the chat are giving you all kinds
Baltimore
of
phonies.
Yes.
All right.
There you go. There you go. Maybe people
real quick on the
on
the villain thing here. I tweeted this out. It's like a niche thing here, but like the Chiefs in a villain role, it's kind of difficult, right? Because we as fans, it's hard to really get an idea of how the team's perceived around the league. They are clearly the villains. The problem is like the Chiefs don't always have on the field like an attitude of villains. You think to the Patriots when they were really good, they clearly rubbed people the wrong way and kind of like enjoyed that. They enjoyed that aspect. You think of some of the Bill Belichick, number one, being the head coach, but you think of just how Tom Brady carried himself, how some of those guys on the defensive side of the ball carried themselves. They embrace that villain, that team that everyone wants to hate role. It doesn't feel like the Chiefs really embrace it very much. Not that they're against it. It's just they don't really feel the lean into it in the same way. So it just makes this weird thing. But I think for the Bills, right? And wrestling fans are going to notice, like the Bills, this whole thing, the past like year and a half now, has Cody Rhodes is going to finish his story at WrestleMania by beating Roman Reigns. Everything is leading up to it. Every single storyline looks like it's going up to it. That's the Bills this year. They are Cody Rhodes, and the Chiefs are Roman Reigns and the bloodline. And just like last night, like all those Buffalo fans, y'all are going to be so sad when Roman Reigns keeps the title at WrestleMania. I know I'm speaking to like a lot less people than everyone watching right now, but I'm telling you, the people that get it will understand. The Chiefs are the Roman Reigns of the NFL world right now, and everybody wants them to lose the title, and they just refuse to. And it's amazing. It's so fun being here.
Yeah, except, to your point, they're not embracing being the heel. Like, even those Patriots teams, there was so much controversy following them around. The Spygate stuff. You had the deflating the football stuff. Like, all of that stuff. There was constantly something that was following this team around at all times. And, yeah, Tom Brady was the best player in the world, is the best quarterback in the history of the game for now. Until Patrick Mahomes finishes his career. But this is one of those that the Chiefs, maybe outside of Justin Reed, aren't really embracing it. He's the only one that's out here, kind of talking a little bit and letting people know a little bit. And, that's fine. Like he plays that way on the field too, like with that sort of intensity. So I'm okay with it, but they're not leaning into this whole, everybody hates us. Nobody wants us to win. Everybody doubts us, at least not publicly facing. Whereas
they use
Patriots, but the Patriots were doing that stuff when they were in the middle of winning all those championships. Nobody believes in it. Nobody likes us. We're going to go out and do this despite them. And they were able to use that as fuel. We're not seeing that kind of publicly facing. We're not seeing that outward stuff. And so it does make me wonder if there is some of that on the inside. These guys are obviously seeing some of the talk. It's not like they're completely tuning it out. You look at Patrick Mahomes kind of sub-tweeting or sub-Instagramming, Deion Dawkins. And hey, Deion Dawkins was a good sport about it. It's like, hey, go win another one. Yeah, he was. He was a good sport about it. But they hear it. They see it. It's there. They are using it, but it just doesn't feel the same, I guess, as maybe it has with some of these other franchises that have won a bunch in a row, that everybody was just tired of them winning it. Instead, it seems like everybody's focused on oh, Taylor Swift, we're sick and tired of seeing her at the games. We're sick of, like they can't pick on the on-field stuff. It's not like they're like, man, we hate Travis Kelce. No, most people don't hate Travis Kelce. He's a very likable guy. Oh, we hate Patrick Mahomes. No, most people don't, because he's a very likable guy. So they're looking for those other ancillary pieces to try and nitpick and dislike now. And it's just, it's got to be difficult, to be sitting there and going, I really don't want the Chiefs to win, so I'm going to target the fans rather than the actual players that are participating in this. So it's interesting. We'll see. We'll see how it's going to go here, but they are in the conference championship again. This is now the 6th straight appearance in a conference championship. It is not in Arrowhead Stadium for the first time in 6 years, to quote my good friend, His Dirkness. Don't be sad the streak is over. Smile that it was there to begin with, because that's insanity that they're even in 6, let alone hosted the first 5. I mean, does that resonate with you at all, Maddie? Or is it just kind of like, oh, ho hum, they're back here again? Or does this year feel different?
Nah, it did until this, and now it's like, okay, this is the same team they've always been. Eventually it will hit home. The problem is, and much like this probably was for the Patriots teams, like we're going to, over the next decade plus, you're going to get a lot of Chiefs Patriots analogies, because that's the only team that are even in the same stratosphere of each other right now, right? So you're going to get a bunch. It's going to get tiresome, and I don't mean to always go back to that, but just like with Patriots fans, I don't think until the waning years did they really appreciate not what they had. I think they understood what they have, like Chiefs fans understand what we have right now, but I don't think they just understood how this is what it feels like to not be there again. And at this point, it's really been 6 years, I guess 7 years if you go back, like Mahomes' first year of this run, but so much of expectation, so much of what you just anticipate happening year after year has already changed in such a short period of time. So no, I don't, I'm not sitting here surprised they made it here. I'm not sitting here like I was that very first time, on the edge of my seat for the entire week leading up to the game. Oh my God, this is crazy. How are they getting here? They're 1 game away from the Super Bowl. They're 2 wins away. They're 2 hours of football time away from being Super Bowl champion for the first time in my life. That was there, and that first time going into it. And that's not really the case anymore. It's just, it is kind of the expectation. And that's what this team's goal is to win the Super Bowl every single year right now. So the fact that they are still technically right now short of what their goal was, a very realistic goal, I think also helps settle the nerves from that case. But again, eventually it will be more appreciated that 6 straight years they are going to the AFC Championship game. Even saying it out loud sounds crazy. And I don't mean to not be like, oh, wow, this is great. It's just, this is who they are. This is who they are. This is what they are. It is what it is.
Yeah. And Maddie can attest to this. I woke up on game day, and for the first time in 2 years, I actually had a little bit of dread about this game. And I think I figured it out as the game went along. Certainly it was, the defense not holding up their end of the deal early on there, but it was that streak. I had a moment where I was like, oh man, this is a beatable Buffalo team, with all the injuries and everything. And, this is a team that the Chiefs can go out and beat. But man, if they don't get this one, Buffalo gets over the hump over Kansas City now. The Chiefs aren't in a conference championship game again. And so now Kent can no longer say his favorite line, all as a Kansas City Chiefs under Patrick Mahomes is the AFC Championship game. I didn't realize how much that meant, I guess, to me. And we watched, the last year, we watched the conference championship game together. And it may seem on the outside that, maybe I was a little bit of a bundle of nervous energy. It's been a couple of years since I've really felt nervous about something going into the game. And this was the one. And so I actually, when we got to the post game last night, that's the most hyped I think I've been for a Chiefs win in a long time. And that includes a Super Bowl that I was over the moon about that just happened, a year ago. But that was the most hyped because I think when I woke up that morning, I had that thought, that moment. I was like, what if this is it? What if this is ruining that streak? What if this is the time when this doesn't happen? And, God forbid, I doubt Patrick Mahomes. That's really what it stems from. Like, we shouldn't at this point, because all he does is prove us wrong every step of the way anytime we doubt him. So it's one of those. We're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit more about the game specifically, what we saw, some of the schematic stuff, and break down a little bit of the Chiefs' victory over the Buffalo Bills right after this.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
All right, we are back. Maddie, schematically, we saw a lot of stuff from both sides of the football. Let's start with the defense, because I don't know that there's a ton that we need to get into there.
Real quick, before we go into the game, I just want to quickly say, Joe Thuney got his MRI today. I think this is like the biggest thing of the week. Joe Thuney got the MRI today. It's a pec strain. I don't know if they came out and told us what grade the strain was, but that kind of, goes back to Andy's point that he thinks he is going to try to give it a go for this next game. That's what he'd said post-game without knowing the severity of the injury. So we can at least say, as of right now, Joe Thuney is not ruled out of this game, right?
Yes.
Joe Thuney might play. And we'll get to the offense later and we can touch on it again then. But Nick Allegretti came in for a couple series there in the game and you didn't know he was there. That's fantastic. They ran right behind him a couple times. It went very well, right? So the Chiefs do have a very competent, very good backup plan if Thuney can't play, but it at least was pretty good news from the injury front for the Chiefs coming out of this, that Joe Thuney did not tear his pec, and it sounds like that he is at least going to be in contention for playing in this game. And if I know anything about Joe Thuney, that man is going to go out there and he will just block with his waist and one arm if he has to.
Yeah, he's kind of wired that way. Like, the arm will be like taped to his chest, and he's still out there doing that.
Just tape it straight out.
So he's just walking around. So he gets into a 3-point stance, and he has to do it with that arm because it's taped straight out. No, it was something that was kind of in the KCSN Discord last night. We have lots of people from lots of different professions, and we have somebody who's a doctor that was in there that pointed out, it was like, they're going to know pretty fast if that's a tear, because that's something that they're going to go in and almost immediately do a surgery, because you don't want to have to try and restretch that muscle after it, or retention, all of that. Like, basically, we were going to know immediately the severity. So as the day went along longer and longer, and we hadn't heard, hey, Joe Thuney had his MRI, it's serious, he's in surgery, yada, yada. I gained a little more confidence about him being able to go back. So yeah, obviously a strain hurts. Don't get me wrong. Like, that has to absolutely hurt, but he's massive for this team, especially against a team like Baltimore that does so much with their pressure packages and their rush plans. You need all hands on deck to make sure that the communication's there, that everything is just happening the way that it needs to. And while Nick Allegretti fills in admirably in a lot of those roles, give me the guy that just knows how to do that silently with Creed Humphrey. And so anyway, yes, great call on that, Maddie.
Yeah.
Talking about Joe.
That's a little detour we took. Now we can go back to defense though.
Let's talk about him. Yeah. Anything schematically that jumped out at you that you saw on anything, just kind of retroactively?
I'm curious as to what losing Mike Edwards and Willie Gay on the first drive, the impact that had on the rest of the game plan from Steve Spagnuolo, because I thought they were a little passive in how they handled Josh Allen compared to how they have played him in the past, right? And we can talk a lot about, like, I think some of the defensive line lack of pressure, some of the Chris Jones not doing a lot was probably them trying to play more contain. Oh, they did a terrible job at it, but like trying to play more contained, like that doesn't mesh. Like, I know there's been some people talking about, like, maybe they were just trying to keep out on the pocket. They did a really bad job if that was the goal. So, but like, they played very passive, and that's unlike Steve Spagnuolo going up against the Bills and Josh Allen. But I do wonder, you now have Justin Reed giving all these calls to Chamari Connor, who's a rookie who didn't really play full-time safety in college. He played nickel, he played corner, he played safety, he played linebacker, he played defensive end. He wasn't just a safety. And then to Deion Bush, because don't forget, Mike Edwards was already safety 3. Deion Bush was chilling on the practice squad. Yes, he was here. He knows the playbook. He should have a good idea of what to do, but he still was a practice squad player until Brian Cook gets hurt, and then he comes up. So I wonder how much of Mike Edwards and then Willie Gay, and specifically in terms of a spy, we even got a halftime report saying like, hey, that was in the game plan and the Chiefs lost it. They have to adjust. That doesn't usually come from the Chiefs side during a game. You ever notice Andy Reid never gives a post-halftime speech? It's always the opposing coach, right? It's like you don't get a lot of scheme talk about the Chiefs. So anyway, I just wonder what those two guys being out changed, because they seem so passive. They seem like they were playing a lot of bend, don't break. And I mean, it kind of worked, kind of didn't. It was up and down, like, right? So I don't know what to take away from this game from a scheme standpoint. I have seen them play this Josh Allen Bills team a lot, and they are usually a lot more aggressive than they were, even if you just want to reduce it to 3rd and longs. Because the Bills run game plus their screen game or swing pass game, they were countering the Chiefs blitz, but even on the 3rd and longs, the Chiefs just weren't getting exotic in the way they have in the past. So I don't really know what to take from the game because of that.
I don't know if that's a confidence in Spagnuolo, just kind of saying, hey, we can line our guys up. We can do what we need to do. We don't have to get 2 in the bag there. I say that as, Drew Tranquill was playing split safety at one point in this, going back to college. It's just like, hey, you played safety before. We need a little help. We're going to rotate and get a little exotic, and Drew Tranquill is going to drop into a safety position there. I think that there was some stuff that they tried, but you need to look no farther than nobody covering the flats. Like, that is where the Chiefs have lived all year long. L'Jarius Sneed, Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, Joshua Williams ate up the flats all year long. As soon as there was any kind of check down, anything underneath, those guys would plant, turn, and blow it up downhill. And I kept waiting for it to happen. Like, it was midway through the second quarter that Josh Allen turned, throwing the ball, checking down to James Cook again. And I'm like, okay, when's the DB coming onto the screen? Because he's not on the screen right now. When is he actually going to get there? And it never happened. Like, it was 10, 11 yards. That's not what this defense has been. That's not what they've done. I feel like they were so afraid of getting beat deep after the Mike Edwards injury. And then, we're so afraid of not being able to corral Josh Allen after the Willie Gay Jr. injury that all of a sudden they were just like, listen, we'll give up the flats. We'll give up a little bit of the run game, but we are not going to allow this team to, hit explosive plays, make explosive runs. I mean, they ended up having plenty of explosive runs there. The Chiefs gave up 182 yards rushing. That is the most in a playoff game for a Steve Spagnuolo defense in Kansas City. But they only gave up 186 yards passing, which is the least in a playoff game ever given up by Steve Spagnuolo. So I do think that they were just trying to put a roof on everything and just say, hey, we're fine with it. If they want to just sit down and try and bleed clock, we have confidence in our offense to go out there and score points. And so it was just, to your point, Maddie, so different from what we've seen.
It was. And like, it worked to some degree, right? Like, you can't say it didn't work, especially in the second half. The Chiefs started closing things down a little bit. It became, the Bills scored 1 possession in the second half. So like they adjusted a little bit. They started slowing down the run game. That was really the adjustment, right? They didn't ever really start to come up on the flats or anything for the pass game or the Josh Allen scrambles. They just started slowing down the run games. Like, there were adjustments. And I don't mean to say that. I don't think Spags was bad. I just thought the game was very interesting given how he'd always played Josh Allen by being aggressive, making Josh Allen think and really contemplate and figure out what's happening. He didn't really make Josh Allen do that at all in this game. And I think that was leading to some of these Josh Allen hero plays where he would scramble and pick up these big first downs or little stuff like that. And like, again, it worked. So I'm kind of poking holes. It was just a very odd game plan for Steve Spagnuolo versus this type of team. So yeah, that's how they ran out with it. The lack of players in the flats, the not being able to fully corral Josh Allen, and that goes to the pass rush. The 4-man pass rush was pretty poor. And this goes to, though, like, are they just trying to mush rush it? Are they just trying to create a box to keep Josh Allen and then catch him when he scrambles? There were a couple times where a diving defensive lineman was, half a foot away from getting Josh Allen at the line of scrimmage. But guess what? They ain't going to get any closer next week against Lamar Jackson. So, if that is your plan, you need to revamp your rules or something on it, because they did a really bad job of containing the quarterback to the pocket when he did drop back to throw. So if that was in fact in the game plan and it wasn't a spy thing, or maybe that was a late adjustment because they did lose Willie Gay to a spy. We won't know this, right? We won't know the answer to this. It's just, I don't know if it was my favorite Steve Spagnuolo game plan, but it worked. The Bills, you challenged the Bills to do what teams challenged the Chiefs to do 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They said, hey, we're not going to give you the deep ball. Go pick up 6 yards at a time and drive down the field. And to Josh Allen's credit, he didn't try to force anything. He didn't make any of the dumb Josh stuff, right? He did exactly what the Chiefs were trying to make him do, almost to a fault. I think his lack of aggression for 3.5 quarters really put their passing game out of sync. I know the Chiefs made it hard with the coverage unit, but their lack of explosive passing game kind of put them out of sync. And when you saw it, and at the end of the game, when they had to really start making throws, he was a little off. His receivers and his timing were a little off, and things just weren't clicking. And that's what happens when you throw 62% of your passes behind the line of scrimmage and then run the ball, 9 straight times every other drive.
Yeah. Josh Allen threw 14 times in the fourth quarter for 44 yards. Yes, Stephon Diggs dropped a pass that would change that massively. That was an absolutely insane throw by Josh Allen. But without that, 3.14 yards per attempt. That's what they were averaging when they dropped back to pass. And so, James Cook in the final quarter went -4 yards, -3 yards, 0 yards, and 1 yard. He had -6 rushing yards.
Lost some people some
right
bets.
There. Yeah. Lost some people some serious bets there. But it was rough to sit there and watch them, try and get that going. Drew Tranquill was a big part of that. Chris Jones made a couple plays. Nick Bolton made a play or two in there as well on James Cook to get behind the sticks, and they panicked. The offensive staff, Joe Brady and the Buffalo Bills, panicked and decided, okay, we're no longer going to do the thing that got us here, that we've been able to move the ball against the Chiefs defense. Now we're going to line up and we're going to try and sling it. We're going to let Josh throw. And it almost worked. Again, Stephon Diggs catches that pass. We might be singing a completely different tune here. Nah. That Patrick Mahomes would have gone down the field and scored. It was going to happen.
Zero doubts. Literally zero doubts.
No doubt.
Yeah. We're talking about the offense in a little bit, so I don't need to go into it.
Yeah, we will. But, they changed the game plan so starkly to go from we're going to run it, we're going to keep everything short, to bombs away. And we're just going to keep throwing deep. We're going to try and do this, which just played right into Steve Spagnuolo's hands. You saw the pass rush be able to step up at the end. All of a sudden, right there towards the end of the third quarter, Josh Allen got hit a few times. Now, they were, not things that he was super off kilter about. The ball was gone. Somebody's hitting him. He wasn't in too much danger or anything like that. But you saw those hits accumulate a little bit. And then at the end of the game, Chris Jones makes an outstanding play. I know people there's a lot of Chris Jones discourse right now, about, effort level and things like that with some of the stuff that he was doing, which we don't know if that's part of the game plan, stay in your rush lanes, yada, yada. The play that I'm referring to is the one where he forced a fumble, rushing against the left tackle, seeing that Josh Allen was getting ready to step up in the pocket, running from the backside, chasing him down, hitting the ball, and then scrambling on his stomach, clawing to the ball and still getting a paw on it, not able to quite bring it in. That was an insane play that, if the Chiefs recover that, we're just, lifting Chris Jones up on our shoulders and talking about how massive of a play that was that he made there. But because the Buffalo Bills fell on that ball, it's going to get a little bit lost in that. The pass rush started finally right there at the end of the game to come into it as the Buffalo Bills started taking longer drops, basically played into the hands of what Steve Spagnuolo was doing. So I think that was the game plan, if I had to guess, and that the Buffalo Bills just came out with a better one that took advantage of the fact that the Chiefs were playing as passive as they were.
Yeah, and like I said, I think things probably change a little bit more if you have an Edwards and or a Willie Gay in there, and so like that's why I on one hand hope that Todd Monken and the Ravens are sitting there kind of designing a little bit of what they're going to do based on what they just saw from the Chiefs, because I don't think it'll look the same next week if those two guys are healthy, and like I don't know if what we saw from the Bills is going to be that different than from what the Ravens traditionally do. I mean the quarterbacks play a little differently. Lamar Jackson, we're going to talk about the whole game. Like Lamar Jackson's more willing to sit in a clean pocket forever until you make him move. Josh Allen gets a little antsy and tries to get out of it. So like there is some differences, but like the overall structure of the offense might look pretty similar. So I kind of hope that the Ravens lean into what they saw from this game, because I don't think that will be the case if everyone's healthy. But if it is, survive the first half. I mean, like as bad as the first half was, like what are we talking about here? Right. But like, look at what they still gave up. Look at the total points, the yards, like all the stuff that matters. Like it looked bad at times. I get it. You don't want to have the ball run 9 straight times from the 50-yard line into your end zone. That doesn't look good. That's really unfortunate. That sucks for every defender out there. But at the end of the day, they made their adjustments. They clamped down a little bit when they needed to. They forced some punts, turnover on downs because of a fake punt. And so like they got what they needed out of it. And I expect to see some changes if guys get healthier or if they have a week 2 game plan with these kind of backup players in there. So yeah, I'm still not down on the defense. I do think the way the Bills played and this next Ravens matchup are a tough challenge for the defense because of how they do run the football. We clearly see the amount of time you put the Chiefs in base and say, hey, defend 6 offensive linemen or defend a fullback. Not ideal, right? It's like we've seen that. And like there's no adjustment. They don't have a magic pill for that. We've seen that for all year. We've seen that for all 4 years now, right? That is what's difficult for them. So a tough matchup, but I think they'll have some curveballs for this next one.
You know what's not a tough matchup? Playing with DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook is the official betting partner of the NFL playoffs and is bringing you an offer that'll help make the playoffs electrifying. New customers can bet $5 on any game and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. This weekend's matchup has already started to move a little bit towards the Ravens. It's a the Ravens are favored by 3.5 points here. So at the time of this recording, I'm interested to see how that moves there. But man, this is not betting advice. I'm going to be putting some money on the Chiefs for that one because I really do feel good about the competitive nature of that game. And given 3.5, yeah. So I'm going to do what I did to start. I'm going to load up the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use promo code KCSN if you're a new customer, because you can get $200 if you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with promo code KCSN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Let's switch over to the offensive side of the ball, Maddie, unless you had some other things that you wanted to talk about on defense.
Nah, I mean, I think this is the time. I think this is the time to make our switch to the offensive side of the ball. And buddy, they're rolling, they're peaking, they're looking good. They are in that form where you just kind of know real quick. After like 3 plays, both these 2 games in the playoffs, you're like, oh, this offense has a little something going on. Yeah. And you figured it out quick in this game. And we thought it was a possibility after the Dolphins game, but like I myself was a little skeptical if they would be able to pull it off again against another team, given all the Dolphins injuries. Well, here come the Bills equally as injured. So, right, like get that out of the way first. This Bills team was missing a lot of players. But what you saw the Chiefs do is instead of attacking them the same way they did the Dolphins, they did like the opposite and they just started throwing everything outside. They said, oh, you're weak in the middle of the field. I assume that you're going to protect that. You're going to roll safeties. You're going to play quarters and have a safety. The backside safety is going to be sliding down to defend, to cut everything. you're going to use Teron Johnson, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer. You're going to use all these guys to defend the middle of the field. What we're going to do is just say, hey, figure out how to defend this stuff out of a condensed split. We're going to throw a bunch of touch pass with anticipation outside, see if you guys can pass it off, defend it. And they couldn't. They absolutely couldn't do it. It's like you get back-to-back performances of arguably the best Chiefs offense all year since the Bears game, and it looked completely different both times. Completely different. That lets you know two things, I think, right there. Andy Reid clearly is just hanging out until the playoffs come around, and he's dialing everything up. And number two, Patrick Mahomes is just that guy. Everything changed. He's like, oh, okay, I have to trust MVS to make over-the-shoulder, tightly contested catches now. Let me drop the ball right onto his chest and say, hey, I guess now that your fingers are up, you'll catch this one. And it happened, right? So it's just two different game plans, two great offensive performances. 15's clicking, Andy's clicking, the whole offense is chugging along. I don't care what the injuries look like. You can just watch an offense and know things are working. Things are working.
Yeah. Nick Wright said it perfectly this morning. We are now to the point where Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, we get to the end of the regular season, we're questioning, how are they going to do this? Like, what is going to happen? Is this finally the year where they fall off a cliff? Is this finally what it is? And Nick Wright said, maybe we shouldn't question it when Patrick Mahomes is asked about MVS, and he's like, no, I got to be better. I got to do this better. I still have faith in my guy. When everybody else is sitting around going, don't throw that man a football ever. He comes up with two massive catches in this game. The first one was an absolutely outstanding catch by MVS. The second one was it's hard to describe this because we've been so normalized by Patrick Mahomes that he makes a play like he does on the second MVS one. And I appreciate that guys like Dan Orlovsky, Nick Wright, these other people have highlighted it. Two free rushers come outside the edge off the right side of the offense. Patrick Mahomes steps up. Trey Smith gets a forearm shiver into one of them to keep him clean off to Patrick Mahomes. And he just kind of steps and just casually, does the little hip flip, flicks the ball up into the air and hits MVS 31 yards down the field. It's like, that's insane. Like, we should be losing our damn minds about how he's able to do that, about everything that he does in those sorts of moments. And it's just one of those now that we saw it and we went, hey, MVS caught the ball. Nobody went, hey, look at what Patrick Mahomes just did. That's insanity. He shouldn't be able to do that. It was, oh man, hey, they threw it to MVS twice and he caught the ball. Good for MVS. We're just so normalized to that sort of stuff. So when he's that laser focused, when he's playing like that, when he is on that level, it doesn't matter. He zigs when you zag. He makes you wrong, even when you're right. And that's such a helpless feeling when you're a defense. Like the Chiefs defense sat there and watched Josh Allen run all over them, watched James Cook run all over them. And in that first half, it felt helpless. And yet they had more answers to what the Buffalo Bills were doing on offense than the Buffalo Bills defense had for what Patrick Mahomes was doing to them on their side of the ball. It was a masterclass, and not just schematically, but also in execution. And for the first time this year, and again, we alluded to it at the top of the show with, why Kent's missing and all that. It felt like it did before this year for the first time. And now all of a sudden it's like, we got our swagger back, to quote those guys, like that's what it is now and what we got to see on Sunday.
Yeah, and we can keep digging in on it. And again, it does matter that the Bills didn't have, their starters. They didn't even have all of their starters plus backups, right? And that kind of stuff does matter, right? Did some of the coverage bust on Travis Kelce's touchdown? I mean, one, it was a cornerback that busts dropping deep and sinking under that, right? So it wasn't necessarily one of the backups in the middle of the field, but still, it was a coverage bust. Does that happen if they have everybody in there? We don't know these things, but what you can come out of it is saying is one, Mahomes was clearly on a heater. He was doing just about everything right. There's a small, less than a handful of plays that he probably was I could use a redo on those, right? But that's about it. He's on a heater. Craig said it. They had an answer to everything. The Bills said, like, for a drive or two, like, hey, what if we bring pressure? When this isn't working, let's just try something. And it immediately didn't work. To their credit, they backed out of it, right? Because, like, they go, well, this, we've seen how this goes. It's not going to work. Let's try something else. And let's try something else. Let's play this soft shell over the top because they're hitting us corners deep. The Chiefs are hitting explosive plays left and right. And then here comes Isaiah Pacheco, just angry emuing all over them. Like, right? So, like, it was just, they had the right answer every single time. And we saw them do this against the Miami Dolphins too. And the only thing was against the Dolphins when they got into the red zone, they kind of ran out of answers. Now, looking back on it, maybe the icy end zone did play a little bit of a role. It's a possibility because all of a sudden they get in the red zone now and no, they weren't 100%. No, yes, there were some execution errors, but man, you could watch that and be like, I get what they're trying to do. I understand why this is happening. Here's them going for the end zone. Here's them setting this play up. Here is, like, you could tell they actively had a plan and they were on their way to putting up points as long as something significantly bad doesn't happen. And so they're getting everything wrapped up. They're getting everything tied up nicely with a little bow on it as they head into the AFC Championship game. And, like, I'm sorry, like, I know a lot of people are going to be on the Ravens. We're going to do that again, that whole breakdown later in this week. But, like, how are you watching this team right now and just having a good feeling that any team in the NFL is going to slow down? I get it. You can point to the entire regular season. Kadarius Toney losing games, MVS losing games for them, Jawan Taylor, Donovan Smith, whatever it tackles. You can point to all this stuff, but you watch this team these last 2 weeks and you tell me you were confident you're getting the Week 11 Chiefs and not this team that just played this game on the offensive side of the ball right now. You are lying to me through your teeth.
Yes. The Kansas City Chiefs had 6 players that had a play go for 25 yards or more. 6. Buffalo didn't have a single player get one over 18 yards, and that was a Josh Allen run. This is Isaiah Pacheco had a run for 29 yards. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a 28-yard run. That was an awesome run by him that has been lost. Yeah, he was absolutely flying. Patrick Mahomes has a 24-yard run. Then you see MVS had a 32-yard catch. I said 6 different players. MVS had another 31-yard catch on top of that. And then Rashee Rice had a 25-yarder. Travis Kelce had a 29-yarder. That is 6 different players with a play that went longer than 25 yards. We haven't seen that. It doesn't matter how hurt you are. It doesn't matter what's going on there. That is just exceptional execution. And so any defense that's watching that is going, okay, so what do we need to do? We've got to make sure that we take away the explosive play. Don't allow them to get some of these things downfield. Don't allow them to get space in the middle of the field and run. We're going to clog things up. We're going to try and put an umbrella over the top of it. Oh, yeah. Hell, 3 of those 25-yard play or 20-plus yard plays there, I said 25. Mahomes was 24. So 3 of those plays were runs. Oh, crap. Okay, so we need to stack the ball. No, that's not going to work because they're actually throwing the ball down. Like, you put them in this conflict now all of a sudden where you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, and you got the best player in the world that is executing the scheme at a high level, and Andy Reid, being his postseason self, putting the extra layers on top of the base concepts that they've been building on all year long. It feels a little bit like Steve Spagnuolo in the playoffs last year, Maddie, when we spent all year being like, how can they dumb it down anymore? It's already dumbed down. They're playing static cover 2 all game long. Like, what are they doing? Then they get into the playoffs and just little itty-bitty wrinkles that they're able to layer on top of it, and teams are seeing it for the first time, and then they're confused, and they're able to get locked down. That's what we're seeing out of this offense. It was the base concepts. It wasn't anything exceptional. They get into the playoffs against the Dolphins. They get into the playoffs against the Bills. Yeah, they're beat up. Wouldn't have mattered. Like, a good defense would have gotten beat up by this offense over the past 2 weeks with the way that they were executing and the way that they had their concepts were out rolling. So I don't know. I'm with you. I see this and I say, man, yeah, the Baltimore Ravens are really good defense, but this has got to be scary to look at this. Buffalo Bills didn't have like a slouch defense. Yeah, they were hurt, but they got some key players back.
Everybody was talking about how great that defense was playing down the stretch. And I get it. They had a couple more injuries since that happened, but they were still playing great down the stretch. And it was weaker offenses. And hey, look, if you go look through the Ravens, I want to be very clear. The Ravens have an excellent defense. They've had, the best defense, the most consistent, most consistently good defense all year. They are a very, very good defense. It's not going to be easy, but You look at their splits versus the good quarterbacks they played and the bad quarterbacks they played.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you were going to have, worse. You're going to do worse against the good quarterbacks. Like that's, a given. Duh, Matt. I get it. Yeah. But like, it's not like they completely shut out every good quarterback they played either. I think people are leaning a little too far into what just happened to CJ Stroud, a rookie playing from an offense that's a little bit more static than what the Chiefs have been just in the past 2 games even. I think people are leaning a little bit too hard into that and not what some other, better quarterbacks, not better than Stroud, just better overall quarterbacks have done versus the Ravens, where they have averaged over 20 points per game against that defense. So I want to start there. Then I want to move on to this. You're talking about how to stop the Chiefs defense. And yeah, I agree. They're not getting crazy with some of their calls. It's still relatively pretty basic stuff, but it's been different both games. They didn't hit any against the Dolphins, but they ran a bunch of posts. They were splitting the safeties nonstop, and they were close to hitting a couple to McColl. They actually didn't throw a few, playing ball management, trying to manage the game a little bit, not turn the ball over. But there was another 3 or 4 where McColl was open. Easily open, and Mahomes just didn't throw it for one reason or another. Then you come to this game. Do you remember them running a post? Do you remember them running a post?
No, I don't. No, they were attacking the sidelines. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now we're going to come out and attack the sidelines downfield. Oh, where were the Rashee Rice crossers? Where was Rashee? What? Oh, he just kind of cut. I know he was a little banged up. Like, it's not like they were hammering Rashee Rice on the crossers. Not like Travis Kelce was getting hammered on crossers. So they have now given you 2 entirely different game plans to prepare for if you're about to look up for this team just in the past 2 weeks. 2 entirely different things. Both of them were excellent performances. It's just they're putting a lot out there for any team to have to deal with, even a team with as good of a defense as the Baltimore Ravens.
And the Baltimore Ravens are going to bring a lot of pressure. They're going to have good pressure plan, good pressure packages, and all that. Again, we're going to get into that. But I want to highlight this. Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones had 0 pressures against this Kansas City Chiefs interior offensive line. They had 38 combined pass rushes. It is Ed Oliver's first game. This is per Next Gen Stats. His first game without a pressure since week 13 of 2021, like a couple years ago, and they weren't able to get pressure. That's the other piece of this that should terrify any defense that the Chiefs are coming up against here, because what we've seen throughout the year, this interior offensive line has not been particularly strong. They've given up some quicker pressures than they should for the quality of player that's there. I guess I should say. We'll put this in a caveat there. They're still really good, but some of the things that we've seen them give up are uncharacteristic for a Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Joe Thuney. And then we looked at the tackles. Jawan Taylor did not have a good regular season. Donovan Smith, when he was hurt, looked really poor. Now, all of a sudden, they come out here against the Buffalo Bills, and both of those guys play really well. Matty alluded to it. There was one pressure at the beginning of the game from Donovan Smith that we remember. And then after that, he was locked down. And then Jawan Taylor on the other side made everybody invisible that he went up against.
Yeah.
This team is hard enough to beat when you've got Andy Reid dialing up the good stuff in the playoffs. You've got Patrick Mahomes playing with confidence and, over my dead body style games. Now you're going to tell me that you're going to go up against a good pass rush in the Buffalo Bills. They were a really good pass rush. They were top 3 in almost every pass rush metric, and they were shut down by the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line, even with a backup in there. They just could not get anything going. And it's not like Patrick Mahomes was just getting rid of the ball immediately. He's sitting back there in the pocket. He was waiting for concepts to develop. They had some long developing stuff that was loaded up there. This offensive line was so good against the Buffalo Bills. And that team was full strength as they're going to get from a defensive line perspective. This was a scary pass rush that they were going up against. And so were the Ravens. I'm not trying to say that, but if the offensive line plays that way and you give Patrick Mahomes that kind of time, it's really hard to beat this football team.
I mean, the offensive line's the big key here, right? It's back-to-back weeks. And I know against the Dolphins, it was a depleted pass rush, right? So you put a little caveat like, hey, they look great, but they didn't really have much. And then the Dolphins just had to blitz a bunch. The Bills have a solid defensive line. They're in the top 5 in the NFL in pressures this year. Like, they do a good job. they couldn't do anything in this game. So Patrick Mahomes' average time to throw was over 3 seconds. And like, yeah, he holds the ball a lot like this year, but at no point in time did it feel like he was holding the ball with nobody to throw to, right? He was holding the ball because it was long developing plays. He was holding the ball because the offensive line was giving him that much time in this game. Yeah, yes, they went condensed. They were coming out of play action, a lot of it. They had chip helps coming out because they were in tight. Like, there was assistance to get a hold of the ball that long, but at no point in time was there any kind of panic that he was about to get hit, that he was sacked, that he was really having to do anything to make a play. We mentioned 2 plays, and I think those same 2 plays are going to stick out to everybody. Donovan Smith on the first play of the game, where Mahomes has to spin out of it before finding Rice. And then there's the 2 loopers that come unblocked that Craig was talking about on the pass to MVS. And like, it was 6 men showing. The Chiefs slid away from the player, and 2 guys happened to loop to the side that they were sliding away from. Good design by Buffalo. Patrick Mahomes said, that doesn't matter. Watch this. And did what he did, right? And so the offensive line playing this good is something you got to keep your eye on, especially when you consider the run game and how much better it's looking. Like, the offensive line plays like this, the Ravens are a tougher matchup than even the Bills, who again have a good defensive line in that aspect. But if the trench battle for the Chiefs offensive line and the Ravens defensive line comes out of net neutral, if that's even just mostly even, tell you what, I'm taking 15 over any secondary, any coverage unit you can find in the NFL. Hands down, right? So like, the offensive line keeps clicking like this. Hopefully Joe Thuney's able to play well. They will get it rolling if that's the case, if the offensive line can give them this. So like, I'm ready for this matchup. It's going to be fun. I think the Chiefs are playing really, really well right now, though. I think a lot of people are going to look at what the Ravens' body of work all year has been and count the Chiefs out. And I just laugh at them because it's just like, do you know the Chiefs are like anything they've done? Like, it's one that who cares who wins? Like, right, the Ravens might win this game. I don't think they will, but they might. But how are you going to sit here and just like, oh no, the team that just won the Super Bowl and has been here every single year and is like on this kind of run right now has no chance to our mighty Ravens, where our quarterback just got his 2nd career playoff win?
Yeah, it's tough, and yet we're going to hear it all week long. National media is going to be all over the Ravens, which I get. Vegas is as well. I get. Like, I'm not trying to take. They are a really good football team. They have been arguably the best football team in the AFC this season, period. And it's not just because of the 1 seed. It's the way that they're playing. It's not, it's not just like, oh, they played a light schedule, they won a whole bunch of games. We've seen that. We've seen that of teams recently. We've even seen that out of the Ravens recently. This is a different football team than any of that. But this is a different football team than the Kansas City Chiefs that were in the regular season. That is just way different. And so I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a slugfest. I don't know that it's going to be a blowout or anything like that. I just feel this one feels like it's going right down to the wire between these 2 teams, because the way that both of them are playing right now is just absolutely insane. So
I mean, like, yeah. And we are going to dig real deep in that. I just said, like, the Chiefs had a close game with the Bills, but like, they had the worst fumble luck you can have. And fumbles are by and large luck, right?
Yeah.
They have one where a fumble gets knocked out of bounds by a Bills player when he has no chance to catch it. Okay, yeah, it's a penalty, and like, it results in a forward pass conversion of 3rd and 17 directly to points. But like, that stinks. Like, that fumble, if it's 2 more inches away from, was it Dalton Kincaid? He can't knock it out of bounds, and the Chiefs probably recover it, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, Josh Allen fumbles later, and Shamari Connor tries to pick it up to scoop and score instead of falling on it. This extends the game longer than it had to be. Like, again, just fall on it, and you get that. Oh, hey, by the way, McCole Hardman fumbled, and if it's like 3 inches shorter than where it is, or if it's a 1/10 of a second after when he fumbled, guess what? The Chiefs don't lose the ball, and they go up by 2 scores and essentially end the game.
Oh, right? Yeah, they're running Isaiah Pacheco on that next down, and he's getting it.
They had the worst fumble luck you can imagine and still won this game. And like, at no point in time was any Chiefs fan sweating down the stretch of this game because they were going to get the ball back with a chance to win, and they were going to win this game in the situation it got there. So like, the game was close. And the Chiefs definitely didn't blow out the Bills, who were a very good football team as well, with an excellent offense that had a great game plan. But like, you can't have that bad of fumble luck. This isn't even like the bad Chiefs turnovers. This is just bad luck, right? I'm not saying, oh, McCole Hardman shouldn't have fumbled. That was just bad luck. And I'm getting a shout out here to George Dixon, our number 1 Baltimore Phonies fan here. Yeah, the Ravens defense is the best in points per game, points per game allowed this year. Guess what? Mahomes is 6-0 when he plays the defenses that lead the NFL in points per game allowed. So Yeah, you can tout that all you want.
7th time that he has faced the number one defense. Or
never scored less than 20 points against them.
My guy Taylor Witt had that nice
Taylor _Witt on Twitter can highlight all those games. George, you can go Taylor _Witt on Twitter. You can find all those games. You can go back and watch them and see how Patrick Mahomes does against the number one defense in the NFL. Hey, spoiler, doesn't go well for that number one defense in the NFL.
It does. We do appreciate shout out to Shots here. Threw a super chat on here. Said Pat's different. Already more playoff wins and Super Bowls than Aaron Rodgers. Never count him out. If Patrick Mahomes wins this weekend, he moves into a tie all time for playoff wins. All time with just Montana and Brady in front of him. Maddie, let's close this out with some stickers, slaps, and spirits. Since Kent's not here, I'm doing his sticker for him. And we're doing MVS. MVS is getting a helmet sticker.
Good sticker.
Because you know what? We have ridden this guy down as a fan base all season long. He has been awful this season. And all he does is show up in a big playoff game, yet again, make a couple of monster catches, almost led the Chiefs in receiving yards. Travis Kelce eked him out there, but a monster game for MVS. So a helmet sticker for him for playoff MVS. Maddie, butt slapping a good job?
Why? I'm not after you. Okay. I did the whole offensive line for Toast game, so I don't. Oh, okay. Where do I want to go? We'll go to Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce had a really good game. He kind of made his presence felt from the get-go, but it's not for the 2 touchdowns. It's not for being the Chiefs, number one receiving option like he should be and like what the goal is. It's because there was a lot more effort at his blocking. And it's not that I'm not trying to call him out on effort or anything like that all the time, but there were some plays against the Dolphins during this year where he just seemed like a guy that was a little beat up. He seemed like a guy that was a little tired. Maybe he didn't want to go fight that defensive end for an entire play on a run play. Maybe he didn't want to go run into a linebacker at full speed to earn an extra 4 yards for his wide receiver with the ball in his hands, right? This game he did, and it showed up a lot. I think he was doing an excellent job blocking downfield. He obviously made the big plays when they counted. So we'll get a butt slap to Travis Kelce. He deserved one. It's been a little too long since we've been able to give him one this year, whereas like in years past, it's every single week he's deserving of a 2-hander.
All right. Whole ass bottle of bourbon for Justin Reed. I know that this is probably not the best game to pick a defender. 0 catches allowed. And I know that people are going to look at that and it's like, he wasn't really matched up against anybody. He was matched up against Stephon Diggs in the slot. And this was one that Buffalo tried like hell to make sure that Stephon Diggs stayed away from L'Jarius Sneed because, I mean, why wouldn't you? You'd be silly to just be like, oh, yeah, we'll allow L'Jarius to dictate how this game is going to go. So they turn around, they hide him in the slot. They put another slot receiver opposite him to try and occupy Trent McDuffie. So they're trying to duck 2 elite corners. Justin Reed had to play man coverage against Stephon Diggs on several snaps. He was lined up against him and did not allow any catches. And he has now become this guy that is terrifying to come across the middle of the field against. He is lighting guys up legally. These are all big legal hits. Yes, he missed a play in the backfield that would have been a monster negative play early in the game, but he has become such a tone setter for this defense, and to the point where guys are dropping passes in the middle of the field. Guys aren't securing things as strongly because they know that they're going to take a monster hit from somebody here. This is terrifying. We've seen it throughout the course of modern NFL football history. When you have that enforcer in the middle of the field, it makes things so much more difficult to make them go. And it's part of the reason why the Chiefs were able to hold the Buffalo Bills to the lowest passing yards allowed under Steve Spagnuolo in a postseason game, is because of the way that Justin Reed was able to orchestrate, get multiple safeties on the same page as everybody else, and come and lay the wood and set the tone. So whole ass bottle of vodka for him, or bourbon for him. It used to be vodka. Now it's bourbon. Shout out Holiday, Ben Holiday bourbon. And then after the game, to go out and have the confidence, go out and talk your shit, man. So yeah, loved it there. Maddie, anything more before we get out of here, buddy?
I think we've got it all. I'm excited to break down this game. I'm excited to get into some more of what the Ravens were doing here against the Texans and down the stretch and just see this matchup. I think it'll be a fun one. This is a great game versus the Bills. Like, I get it. You don't always want to play the Bills. It's a little bit of a rivalry. It's a friendly rivalry. We had a rivalry, but that game's so much fun to watch. And like when you keep coming out on the winning side of all of the playoff games, like it feels real good. Oh, I actually take that back. One more thing about this Ravens matchup. This game, Craig and I attended the first like Mahomes versus the Ravens game back when was the second year starting.
Yes, it
that
was.
The throw to Tyreek Hill was still might be the best throw I have ever seen on a football field. That play is always going to stick in my mind when people start talking about Mahomes plays. Just that play right there. Like that's the moment where you already knew he was great. You already knew he was amazing. You knew he was one of those guys, but that's like where it was like, he's different than those guys. And so while the Chiefs and the Ravens have played since then, that is just always my lasting memory right now of the Chiefs versus the Ravens. So it would be awesome to see them erase that memory and replace it with an even better one this weekend.
Ooh, gosh, that would be fun. That'd be fun. Chiefs go to a Super Bowl, extend their playoff streak right now, their game win streak to 6, go to back-to-back Super Bowls for the second time in Patrick Mahomes' young career. We will be back on Thursday to get into this game a little bit more, break down the schematics, dive into what the Ravens do, dive into what the Chiefs do, how they can both counteract it. So stay tuned to KCSN. We're going to have you covered all week long. Conference championship stuff. I'm Craig Stout from Matt Lane. Be kind to each other. We'll catch you later.